All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. The playoffs are right around the corner. There's essentially two teams that the Avalanche could match up against. Who would we rather see them play? Does it even matter? Do we really care? We will discuss that. And the Avalanche did release this year's playoff motto: thumbs up, thumbs down. And where does it rank? Not necessarily rank. Where does it sit with the other playoff mottos that the Avalanche have had from years past? New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Locked On Avalanche. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Make sure to follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. Follow us on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And why not subscribe to our subtext? The link to that is in the show notes, wherever you are listening or watching. And converse with Kyle and I on a one-on-one basis about everything Avalanche. Yes, that glowing face that you see. You can converse with that. All right, man. So we'll get to that motto thing later on. That's just kind of like an impromptu. I don't even know if we're going to rank them. We're just going to talk about like the mottos that the Avalanche are continually coming out with year after year, and where this one that they just came out with on Monday ranks. Early returns, which is just you and I, could do a little bit better, I guess. But we'll get to that in a little bit.
We set the bar really high last year.
That was a good one. But for right now to start, we're in playoff mode, right? I mean, you got to finish the regular season. You want to finish regular season strong, and there's still some work to be done there. But when it comes to the Avalanche, we don't know. We don't know who the first. This is not the Toronto Maple Leafs and Tampa Bay Lightning. We have not had our first round matchup set since week 2. So it's still up in the air. You're basically looking at two teams. If you win the Central, let me get my correct app up here. If you win the Central, you're going to be going up against likely the Kraken, right? If those wild cards stay true. If you surrender the division to Dallas, you are going up against Minnesota. You will have home ice advantage on either one of those, likely. I think Minnesota has played their way out of winning the division. I think Minnesota is kind of entrenched at 3 right now. They're 4 points back. And as we are recording this, they are losing to Minnesota, or Minnesota's losing to the Blackhawks 2-1. That's almost halfway through the game. So there's still some time to go in that. But it just seems like there's not much left for them, game wise, to really kind of overtake the Avalanche or Dallas to go 1-2. You could essentially win the Western Conference. It's not out of the picture. You're not eliminated from that. So if that happens, you likely would be looking at the Winnipeg Jets. That unless Calgary can catch them. Again, we're running out of games here. So it's kind of coming into a clearer picture, but we'll just keep the focus on the Kraken and the Minnesota Wild. Do you have a preference there?
And this is where you're really expanding the heart and the soul and the mind of the fan. Do you want the new super cool jersey comprised of half Avalanche players, Seattle Kraken? Or do you want that longtime rival, the Minnesota Wild, where no matter where they're in the division, they're always number 2 to me?
I tell you what the league wants.
Oh,
the league would want that divisional matchup, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And they'll get it one way or another with Dallas and Minnesota. And Seattle can always catch the Kings. Right now, the Kings are 2 points up on them. So this is a fluid situation. We're not sitting here saying like these are your only options. As of right now, these are the options. Like it's one of those things that's like if the playoffs started today, the Avalanche would be playing the Kraken. But things can still maneuver. The Kings could drop down to that wild card spot, but let's just go off of kind of like the options. So that's that the Kraken are the option, the Wild are the option, and so you're starting to talk about it. But what would be you'd rather in?
I'd rather have Minnesota. Seattle scares me because they are so unknown, and this is their first time in the playoffs. And what better way to climb the ranks and establish yourself as a legitimate team than to beat the defending Stanley Cup champions in the first round and ride that momentum. Minnesota, we know Minnesota. We play Minnesota. It's just. Yeah. I would feel more comfortable in that matchup, especially in a series type format. Seattle is just such an enigma right now.
And you said, Seattle doesn't scare you or they do scare you. And it's kind of what I'm going to say. It's like could work against the Avalanche too. I could say I'm sitting here saying like the Avalanche the Kraken don't really scare me for those same reasons. They're unproven. They haven't been here before. Obviously, it's a younger team, but that could also work in their favor, where it's like, hey, we had a horrible inaugural season. We turned this thing around in 1 year. Nobody's expecting anything from us. And teams like that can be dangerous because they just go out and they play with house money.
Yeah.
And nobody's expecting to. And especially if you're playing the Avalanche in round one, nobody is going to be picking them. So might have a chip on their shoulder because for that reason. And number two, like I said, they can just go out and kind of play. They should play loose, but they've never been there before. And that can also play against them because they've never been involved. Individual players have. I get that. Clearly, you have, Burakovsky on that team, and, so you have guys. This is not your typical way that the NHL does things with the expansion draft. It's not your typical ragtag team, right? But you still have not played as a unit in the playoffs. So I think that does hurt them. But again, it all depends on how they go out and play. And if they're just going to say, hey, throw caution to the wind, nobody's expecting anything from us anyway, and they play to that could be dangerous. It could be.
Yeah, that's kind of how the Avalanche story got started. Remember that Nashville team that went on to win the cup? The Avalanche shouldn't have been there. They stole a couple games and they built off that momentum to a cup. And the same could happen for Seattle if the Avalanche take down Seattle, but it's a 6-game series. Seattle steals 2. That's exactly what they need to solidify themselves as a contender. Like, we belong here. And then next year, it's going to be an even harder fight. So that worries me. Minnesota, we play them 100 times a year. Preseason, those are the only games you really want to tune into because there's going to be fights and there's bad blood and these teams know each other and they're kind of built to take on each other. So Minnesota, I feel more comfortable in that matchup because it's more of a proven commodity that we've seen. There's just so many question marks that scare me, and the Avs are so hot and cold. I don't know how that matches up with a question mark team like Seattle.
And I mean, if you're going to ask me to answer this question right now, and it's between Seattle and Minnesota, I would probably go with Minnesota, not to avoid a team. If I'm the Avalanche, I don't want a matchup to avoid another team. I would go with Minnesota just because that's the rivalry.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. That's what fans want to see. That's what these fan bases want to see. Are you kidding me? Like the first round matchup, the NHL could sell that easily. They're two teams that just dislike each other. So I think, That would be a knockout drag out series, and
I think
that'd just be fun to watch as a hockey fan.
It'll be such a relief to have finally. It's been like the last 3 years, Minnesota and St. Louis have always been that opening round matchup, and I'm so sick of that series and watching it on TV. So please give me Minnesota and anybody else.
Yeah, and if we are throwing the Kings in here, that would be a very tough series too.
Ooh.
That'd be a very, very tough series for the Avs if it turned out to be them.
Yeah,
so
these games matter going down the stretch.
Yep.
This is why we harp on it and preach on it. Like, this is why it matters, because this is shaping the playoffs and what you're going to be going through in that washing machine cycle of the playoffs.
Yeah. So a couple more games to go to get it finalized and know exactly who the opponent will be. But I'll go back to me, the way the Avalanche are playing right now, and with guys waiting in the wings to come back, I'm confident no matter who they draw.
Yeah.
That's just where I'm at right now with the Avs. So who will be in those line combinations? That is a question of when the playoffs come around, you should be healthier. So we will take a look at that and who we think what the line combinations will look like and how we just feeling in general going into these playoffs compared to last season. But first, we are going to discuss our friends over at FanDuel. Grand slams, no hitters, double plays. Jedi craves none of these things. They are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/locked-on to sign up, place your bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets again if you do not win. So don't miss your chance to get that no sweat first bets, and you can bet on pretty much anything. Aaron Judge hitting another home run, which probably happened 3 times since we've started recording this episode. Pitcher to go over. Yeah, go ahead.
Will the Phillies ever win a game?
Are they? See, like I don't. For baseball, I just like have my couple teams, and that's all I pay attention to in baseball. Just because the season is so long, have the Phillies not won?
Well, they won one game. Like, I grew up a Braves fan, and I'm a Pirates fan as well.
Yeah.
So you always hate the Phillies.
Weren't they in the World Series last year?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Makes it even sweeter.
That's I did not know they were struggling out of the gate. So go
happens.
bet against them. Chances are you'll be winning.
Please do.
Yeah. So don't miss that chance for the no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Go to FanDuel.com/lockdown to sign up. That is FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, so let's just talk about how our feeling. Like I just said, it doesn't matter who the Avalanche are playing. The way that the Avs are playing is kind of what I look at. And like I did last year, even though the Avs went into the playoffs last year on that losing streak, a couple people were panicking. Some of the Avs faithful were panicking. They really didn't have much to play for, and it's kind of why they took the foot off the gas a little bit. But I felt good going into those playoffs. I kind of have that same feeling, at least for round one.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever they match up against, I feel good.
Yeah,
I feel good. What say you on that?
Last year, it was we didn't win the cup. We didn't have a cup going into last year's playoffs. It was still that fresh, new, exciting, like, what could they do? And we now know in hindsight what they did do. But those last 2 weeks of the season, after they clinched everything so early, and it was what we called garbage time, it was just some abysmal hockey. And we broke down every playoff series, and I don't remember us ever predicting sweeps. Did we ever say a series would sweep?
No, I think that's just a little bit too cocky.
Yeah,
even if you're a Boston Bruins fan right now, I don't think you're going in, predicting a sweep.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, the last 2 weeks of the season, it looks so bad. And going into those playoffs, you would have been happy with 5-6 game series and advancing. The Avalanche flipped it on its head and looked absolutely dominant the whole way, and really didn't have any competition. This year, it's this weird feeling. I have every reason in the world not to feel this way. I feel better going into these playoffs than I do last year.
I mean, how much of that is because for the simple fact that they won it last year? You know what I mean? If they did not win it last year, you are going into these playoffs again wondering, like, man, can this team get over that hump? When is this team going to win it? You don't have that weight. That weight is gone. That doesn't mean you just sail through the playoffs, but it means you've proven to yourself that you can do it. And there is something to be said for, players that are still on this team, the Nathan McKinnons, the Mikko Rantanens, the Cale Makar whenever he comes back. Like, those guys have that in their back pocket, and they say, we've done this. We know what it takes to go through an NHL playoff. It's the most grueling playoff there is in sports, and they've done it. And yeah, some guys are not here. Yeah, it's not the same team. Yeah, they've had a ton of injuries, but they can say, like, we know what it takes and we can do it again. And I think they're just primed. That's what makes you feel good. But you're right. If you didn't win it last year, you're going in to these playoffs with a completely different mindset.
And see, I don't even know if winning the cup last year gives me any more confidence, because if you just kind of book in your knowledge of the game of hockey to just this season, with all of the injuries, if I told you at the beginning of the year, Gabe Landeskog will not play a single game, you will not have Andre Burakovsky, Nazem Kadri, Darcy Kemper, and you're still going to be top of the Central. And
yeah,
we have done more with less.
Yeah.
And you have won in every possible facet of the game. You've had comebacks, you've had blowouts, you've had dominant showings, you've had embarrassing showings. They have won and lost in every form possible. And going into these playoffs, we just talked about there is a possible scenario where they win the complete West without their captain. Like,
right, yeah, to still be in the conversation of potentially winning the West. It's a long shot, but you potentially could do it with the way that this season has gone. That's another reason why I feel good going into these playoffs. If this, with everything that's happened, if they were fighting, like say they were in the position that like Winnipeg is in right now, and you eventually do get that wild card spot, you're going into these playoffs like, well, we're in. Let's just see what we can do.
Yeah.
But you are sitting at the top of the division with an opportunity, if things fall your way, to win the conference with the way that this year has gone. How are you not confident going into the playoffs? And you will be getting Artturi Lehkonen back, hopefully, by the playoffs. Hopefully, Josh Manson. Maybe if you make it to round 2, like you're still getting pieces. Cale Makar. You're still getting pieces back that just make you better.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're not confident going in. And maybe this goes to your point of saying, like, you're a little bit more confident going into this season than you were last season. Maybe that's why.
And you have Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen fully embracing the role of superstar and leader on the team, both hitting the century mark. Dennis Mulligan having like 2-goal nights and just goals that matter, like incredible speed. JT Compher, he's getting in playoff mode early. He's becoming visible and he's showing up. That fourth line is probably one of the most entertaining things I've seen in a while when it comes to like non-superstar Avalanche hockey. Like, I love watching that fourth line on the ice. So there are so many things that you're confident with, and you're getting Francouz back. You have a solid number 1 goalie, and you have Francouz, and then you have JoJo and Keith Kincaid. Like, you have a goalie stable. And Barn, you have like 4 or 5
a little
goals.
Unproven, but you do.
You have Justus Annunen if we want to get frisky with it. Like, come on, we can go for days. Like a solid D core. Especially with seeing what you saw out of EJ the other night, how can you not be confident in this team going into the playoffs?
you see Curtis McDermott took a slap shot that was like 93 miles an hour, according to the TNT
Yeah.
gun?
And
Wow.
he's been showing up, and he looks like a valuable member of the team. Like he's not just a tree out there. He's taking shots and he's making plays. Like,
right.
I love this team.
Everybody's contributing, right? Everyone's contributing. So what would be the projected line for game one, round one? We won't do defense. We know what the defensive pairings are. Those really don't change all that much.
Nikita Zadorov.
As far as the forwards go, we are going to assume Artturi Lehkonen is back, and we are going to assume that Gabe Landeskog is not for game one.
It's easy.
So we kind of answered an Instagram question from last week about well, the question was, when Landeskog comes back, who's the odd man out? And I kind of preempted that by saying, like, well, Lehkonen is probably coming back before Landeskog. So same question, just insert Artturi Lehkonen. And for me, it was between Newhook and Malgin. And I said it was probably Malgin that was the odd man out. But I might, the way that he's playing, I maybe changed my tune a little bit to that. But it still goes back to, who does Bednar trust? I'm not saying he's got all his trust in Alex Newhook, but Newhook at least has, a playoff under his belt with the Avalanche where Malgin doesn't. Does that come into play? I don't know. You can swap these guys in and out if you want to in the playoffs. If you want to try one of them game one, don't like how they played, then you throw Newhook in and you swap them in and out. But what are you thinking for lines as far as how you think game one will look, assuming Artturi Lehkonen is back?
You have Nate, Mikko, and Lehkonen.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. That's what I would say.
Lines 2 and 3 are tricky. You keep the fourth line the same, but Malgin stays.
Malgin would be on the fourth line?
Probably.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Go to line 2.
Line 2. Nuke.
Mm-hmm.
JT Compher and
You have
Erod.
to. Yeah. You have to put Compher on line 2. Yeah, that would be. We're in agreement here. Because but Bednar has put Nichushkin and Lehkonen on the same line recently, and I don't like that. I don't like. Those are your two best forecheckers. Have them on separate lines. Make it difficult for the opponent for two consecutive lines to have like easy or non-easy transitions. So, at least to start the game, that's how I'm doing it for that top six.
And I was struggling to even put that out because I really was torn with swapping Lehkonen and JT Compher and putting JT Compher
Where
on line 1 with Nate and Mikko right out of the gate. With Nate and Mikko, with what they're doing right now, it doesn't matter because if Lehkonen's coming back, it's the same. It's a new face.
Right.
But we want playoff JT Compher. What better way than a line that's super producing right now? And then let Lehkonen kind of ascend his way.
Yeah, but if you move Compher up, you're kind of losing a true center on your second line. Because Nichushkin is not, Rodriguez is not, and Lehkonen is not. So you really don't have a true center.
Erod could be.
He'd probably be the best out of those three, but I'm not too confident in that. So that's kind of why you leave Compher there.
What are you thinking for 3? Just curious.
So if I am if I'm gonna put Alex Newhook on the bench, my third line would probably be Eller's been on the third line.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably put Malgin there. And
because I want to put LOC on that third line.
I know, that's kind of what I'm thinking too.
I really want to put LOC and Lars Eller
And then what's your fourth line then? It's Nieto, Cogliano. And who's left? Who am I missing here?
Mulligan?
Well, I got Mulligan on the third line with Eller and O'Connor.
And I got O'Connor, Eller, and I was thinking Cogs on the third line.
Cogliano on the third line?
Yeah.
No, he's your workhorse, and you kind of put him on the fourth line. Yeah, I mean it's. I mean, this is a good problem to have. We're not
because
gonna,
it's you got to go with the mindset of like playoff experience a little bit. With that, and Cogs has been one of the more underrated players and underappreciated.
It's been good, yeah,
for what he's been doing with the Avs this year.
Yep.
And I think the playoffs should be his reward. Like,
yeah,
give him a little bump, and you could play around with that third and fourth line. You could swap it up mid game.
yeah.
But
I mean, and then you still have potentially Darren Helm coming back too.
That'd be your fourth liner.
That would be your fourth line. Yeah.
Because I believe, I'm confident in saying right now, Mulligan over Newhook in the lineup.
Yeah, I would be fine with it. I really would be okay with it, at least to see how it goes.
He has that kind of crazy tinge to him where he will take that chance.
Yeah.
And you believe in him to take that chance. It's like a mix of LOC and the good upside of Newhook mixed together in a player. And I really have loved his play.
Yeah, I think the reason why I go with Mulligan is because, you know, with Newhook, when it's bad, it's bad. When it's good, it's good. But and it's the back and forth of that. And with Mulligan, he's kind of been consistent. He's kind of been even keel, and he can step it up when he needs to. But if he doesn't, he's not the liability that Newhook has been.
Yeah.
So I think you kind of go with Mulligan to start. And then if the playoffs are too much for him, I mean, but he's 26, 27 years old. So he's not like, you know, this 19-year-old coming out of college or anything like that. Give him a shot. But if the playoffs prove to be too much for him, okay, then you can bring Alex Newhook in, and I'd be okay with that too.
Yep.
I think you're going to be seeing them swapped in and out. So we'll see. Let us know in the comments what you guys think in line combinations and stuff like that. Whenever the Avs do take the ice, they will be playing under a brand new motto for this postseason. The Avalanche posted a nice little 1 minute a pump you up video. I have to say that video is very well done, where they announce their motto for this postseason, and that is one way, our way. Doesn't have the punch that Find a Way does, but we're still in the way business apparently.
This is the way.
This is the way. So we were kind of just going through like mottos, and we're not the Colorado Avalanche motto experts. We remember a handful of them, and we were trying to like rack our brains, and they're very difficult to Google.
Oh,
so,
impossible.
There's no database of mottos for NHL teams. Now that I said that, maybe someone can start that would be nice. That'd be a nice reference page. But we were throwing out some of them that we remember and kind of our favorites, and where this one way, our way kind of sits. To me, it's not horrible, but it's not the best. It doesn't have that because Find a Way was great.
It was amazing.
I mean, it was everything that was going on with the Avs, all these second round exits and everything. That's exactly what they had to do. That was Find a Way. That was perfect.
Yeah.
Now you can get into One Way, Our Way is like being a little bit cocky here. Like,
yeah, Find a Way was it resembled the team. That's how they won every game.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was honestly how you signed off of every game. Like, Avalanche win again. We found a way. Like, that's just how it was. Like, One Way, Our Way. This Avalanche team this year, we just talked about every combination under the sun. Who's in, who's out, Who's stepping up? Like, there's no one way. We've done it a million ways, and it's our way.
If there's one way we've done it this year, it's injuries, and I don't want to do that in the playoffs. So let's not use that literally.
No,
I get what they're going for. Some of the other ones that we were just discussing, you and I, obviously the Ascend as one. That just seemed too sci-fi-ish for me, and I love sci-fi, but I don't know. I don't want it in my hockey. I wasn't crazy about that one. I remember Why Not Us.
it's my favorite.
And I thought the Why Not Us was more recent, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Like when we were just kind of like doing brief Google searches on this is from like back in like what, the
2013,
12, 13, 14 season. So I can't for the life of me remember. There was one that I remember Peyton Manning. It was the year that they got into the playoffs after the horrible season, the epic horrible season that they had. And then the next year they flipped it around and got into the playoffs. There was a motto for that. And I remember Peyton Manning holding up a sign, and everybody would do this, hold up a sign, and they'd be like, I'm so-and-so from whatever, and all I have to say is this. And they'd hold up the sign, and I thought that was Why Not Us. But I must be wrong on that. If somebody can remember what that is, please just put it in the comments.
I have this weird feeling. I think we carried that over for years.
It could have been.
I think it was one of the
reused. It's possible.
And I think that we dumped Why Not Us and went with more of a like in command kind of motto, and then it's just been changing every year, which has been great when it comes to last year. Like Ascend as one felt like a Star Trek saying.
Yeah.
And this
and then the other ones that we had, I don't remember this. You said this was during the COVID bubble.
Yeah.
It was Defend Mile High.
Yeah.
Which makes zero sense because you're playing no home games because you played in a bubble.
We had Defend Mile High, and everybody had bubble hockey shirts, and every bubble pun under the sun.
But was that the year like everybody had to defend something? Like did everybody have was that like unison across the league? It was like defend whatever city that you were coming from.
I remember seeing a Defend Calgary. I remember seeing those.
Yeah. That could have been what they were going for. I mean, if it's not, that's just an odd choice to say Defend Mile High while you're not even playing there for an entire postseason.
Defended from I
don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
There was
defended from COVID basically.
Unwavering was 18.
I like that one. I like Unwavering. And then the A in Wavering is the Avalanche A. I thought that was a good one.
It's a good.
I like that.
It's not so much like a rally point that Find a Way was. Like Unwavering, like that was it's too flowery.
Yeah.
Like it's too much. It's Unwavering.
I don't know. I think it's just like the one word. I like the one word, short, sweet. Here's one word that's just the powerful word, and yeah.
Like those
sticker.
like those pictures that are up in every office. That's just like a sailboat, and it's like determination.
Yeah, or Ted Lasso believe. That's all you need. But what I want to know is like, and maybe there's some copyright stuff going on here, but I'm sure they would give you the okay to use it. Why not use all the small things? I mean, come on now, that's just built in.
Like Carry Me Home. There's so many things you can.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know. One Way, Our Way. It's what we got for this year. Maybe it'll grow on me. I don't know, but Mission
16W way back.
Yeah, well, what's that?
It was way back.
When was that one? I mean, that's like every postseason when you're doing.
It was the Ray Bort battle cry. Like
that's right.
He never wanted to lose another one.
Yes, you're right. That was But
I remember seeing those signs.
Yeah. So if there's some that you guys remember, throw them out there in the comments. And if you're thinking of the one that I'm thinking of from the Avalanche with I just remember Peyton Manning hold up a sign, and I wish I could remember what it looked like.
Give me one better than
yeah. I mean, like I said, like this is very impromptu. We're no experts on this. So if there's one that you remember, throw it in the comments section. And what do you think of this one, of this One Way, Our Way? It's trivial to say the least, but something to talk about. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. We will be back tomorrow to discuss Abs Edmonton. How's that one going to go down? All right, sir. It's going to wrap it up. Thank you for making the first listen. We appreciate that. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is Locked On Avalanche podcast, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.